Jack, I've watched you, from the beginning, kind of come up this ladder here. You come out of the Navy as an intelligence, from the intelligence community in the Navy, and I watch your style. Okay. But for the audience here, I'd really like you to tell everybody how your style from that intelligence community affects and shapes the media that you do, and how big of a factor is that in the strength of alternative media.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks again to General Flynn, the entire team for putting this together, for having us on. I'll mention it because most people don't always know the backstory that when I was in Navy intelligence, I was at one point assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency. I was deployed to Guantanamo Bay, worked in the J2X interrogation cell down there in the Human Operations Center, and the director of the DIA at that time, all those years ago, is sitting in the front row right here. That was General Flynn's, who I served under in the DIA. So a lot of people don't realize how much of a backstory that so many of the people in this room have, that through a completely precipitous series of events have now ended up in this place. And so when you talk about the style that I have is the style that I was trained on as first in intelligence. I was enlisted and then became later an officer. And I remember always being taught, be good, be brief, be gone, and have the bluff. Put the bottom line up front. Remember the bluff, General? So it's you've got to have that big headline. You'd say headline in today's parlance, but it was, what's the so what? What is the so what? I could put up a briefing slide in front of you and walk you through all of the different net connections and all of the different background on any specific problem set, whether it be a terrorist cell, whether it be a Chinese Communist Party influence network, whatever it might be, smuggling, etc. But if I'm not giving you the so what right up front, then I'm wasting your time and I'm wasting everyone's time. And so when I bring my approach to whatever it is you call I do independent media, that's something that's always deeply ingrained in my mind. Be good, be brief, be gone, and be clear. If you're not speaking with clarity, then you're not properly communicating, because effective communication begins with that. And it's so interesting looking at, as you say, this journey from being inside the intelligence services to now in independent media. I took my children to the International Spy Museum, which is just a few blocks away here, for the first time ever, this new one they've constructed. And I said, I said, wow, they should really call this place the Constructed Reality Museum, because that's what it is. It's a museum not about the intelligence community. It's actually a museum created by the intelligence community to give you a vision of a constructed reality that has some resemblance to reality, but everything's just slightly off. And what do I mean by this? I mean, this is the cover story. This is the false reality that you would get if you read the pages of the Washington Post or the New York Times, or if you're watching CNN and listening to NPR. This is the reality where, of course, Russia hacked the election, where COVID-19 was a natural origin virus that came from apparently a bat making out with a pangolin and ending up in some soup in a wet market. And if you say anything that's beyond Hunter Biden's laptop, again, Russian disinformation, all of these things, which we know and all of us have learned are completely true. And everyone knows the list. I could go on and on about these things, but when you walk into that Constructed Reality Museum, you realize the amount of money and the amount of force and the amount of huge dollar bank accounts that are put into maintaining this illusion of a false reality, recruiting people who are willing to go along with the false reality, as you encountered in mainstream media, because they don't actually push beyond the boundaries of that accepted narrative, whatever the consensus bias is. Climate change was another example of this for a long time. You notice they don't even talk about that one anymore. And so having been in the military and then serving in places, Guantanamo Bay, for example, was a place that was completely lied about in the media. And I guarantee you, every single person in this room, with the probable exception of Tim Ballard, who just walked in, because that's a guy who knows the truth, you have a vision in your mind of and a picture of these places that exists because the media painted it for you, or Hollywood painted it for you, or it was an accepted narrative, a constructed reality that was implanted in your mind. And what did we see most recently? DNI Gabbard and Joe Kent was just here. So she was in the White House yesterday. And for the first time ever, we've seen someone actually totally shatter that veil from a position of power like she's done. This has never happened before in the history of the United States, where the director of national intelligence has come out and for the first time told the truth about what actually happened, that in this instance, Russiagate was a domestic intelligence operation that was run on the American people and their president in conjunction with the entire mainstream media. And that's something that, of course, the media is doing everything they can to silence, because it's an indictment on their entire process.